My name is James Zorn, and I'm here to round out the final two talks and to kind of get us back into the mood. I want to bring a little juice. And so, with that, I need community engagement. I'm going to bring this in at the end as well. But we're going to start with a little spirit cheer. Think about your high school spirit days. I've got some help with some Class A spirit cheerleaders from my years past. They're going to help me. So it's going to go something like this. I say Ted, you say X. Ted. X. Ted. X. I say Ted, you say X. Ted. X. Ed. X. Oh, I tested you. You lost on how I said Ed. All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
This is not going to be the first time and the last time. There will be a test at the end. Okay. Again, I'm James Zorn. I'm the chairman and CEO of M25 Ministries. I am a dreamer. I am a visionary. I'm a doer. I can dress in finery, but I'd rather be in the dirt. I can speak with big words, fancy sentences. I can talk in statistics that will make your mind go numb. But I'd rather carry a heavy load. I've always said, I'm an academic plow horse. Really smart, but really better at just doing. I'm a doer. So we're going to talk about housing today. And I have a pretty unique subtitle. Zero economies of scale, endless return on investment. And I hope by the end of this that I've demonstrated kind of my thought process behind that. Before we get too far along, I want to define community because we kind of get ourselves trapped in boxes, unnecessary boxes. We define things. We can't do that because we're not that. A community, and I like this one, it's very simple. It's a group of people who agree to grow together. No ages, no criteria, no demographic profiles. We just all agree that we're going to grow together. Now, some of the boundaries we like to use is, we use county boundaries, we use city boundaries. But I'd like to tell you that Cavalier is more than Cavalier proper. Conservatively, a 5-mile radius comes into Cavalier every day. Realistically, a 10-mile radius visits Cavalier every day. So when I talk about Cavalier and the community of Cavalier, I don't talk about Cavalier proper. I talk about the community of Cavalier and everybody who supports its ability to be alive and thrive. So now that we've established that, I want to talk about another aspect that might seem a little off on housing, but it's more related to community. And that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is that academic part. We all have to achieve certain levels to get to the next level. That bottom level, the physiological, that's breathing, that's eating, and that's having shelter. Shelter does not mean a house. That next level is security, safety, there we go. That's where we might be in an apartment. We have a job that gets a regular paycheck. We might, we can buy groceries. We don't have to worry about that. And as we move up that chain, we get up to those top two. Self-esteem and self-actualization, that's when we start looking beyond ourselves, outside of what are my needs? What do I need here in this circle to be alive and okay? And I start looking out and saying, how can I help you? And how can I help you? How can I help the rest of the community be as safe and secure as I am? One of the things I want to talk about is that the pandemic really kind of messed with this because it's a very linear process. It's very clean. But the pandemic created a fracture in this whole system. Because the pandemic touched every one of us, some greatly, some only a little bit. But it touched every one of us, and it took some aspect of our life and where we are in that security hierarchy, and it fractured it because we are scared. We were scared for somebody or ourselves. Was it going to take somebody we loved? Was I going to make it through unscathed? We have to get our mojo back because we've lost that, and that's a key piece of community. Before I can commune with you, before I can reach out and say, let's do this, I have to feel safe and I have to feel secure. So how do we all look at ourselves and say, I now am safe enough. We're 4 years out. I now feel safe enough. I'm going to step outside of my safety circle and reach out to you. And hopefully you'll do the same so that we can work together. Because we've got many problems, many issues that need to be solved. But before we can do that, we have to feel safe. We have to feel secure. So housing, I've been in meetings, lots and lots of meetings. We all love meetings about housing for the last 8 years. And one of the key areas about housing is, well, it's a national problem, it's a state problem, it's a county problem, it's a city problem, it's a very local problem, because what is the problem here isn't the problem in Walhalla or in Oaks, Park River. Every housing problem is very localized, and so we really have to look as close as we can to our own community and its surrounding area, and what is the problem there? This is probably going to be the most boring slide you'll look at. It's a lot of data, but what it says, and some of it has been alluded to earlier today, we're an aging demographic. 1 in 3 people are over 65, and what do we know about that? 65 and older, we are now on the backside of our earning potential. Our peak earning years are behind us. We might be working less hours, we might be retired, we might be on a pension or 401k, but we're not earning our maximum amount. And so within that population, 1 in 3 is at risk of not having the money they need to afford housing. That's called cost burden. We get our Social Security check, we get our 401k check, and at the end of the month, we're spending more than 30% on housing. Depending on the studies you read and the profiles and how big the population, some people are paying up to 50% of their money that comes in every month on housing. So, and then when you look at the very bottom, you look at availability. We already know that there's a housing shortage per se. But when you look at this and you put it in context with the only growing demographic profile in this county, the only growing demographic, which is 65 and older, everyone else is decreasing in size. We have an increasing population who cannot afford housing. And we only have half the housing that's reasonably identified as available to them. So just in this population demographic alone, we're down 50%. That doesn't include the other demographic profiles who also have people at risk. So, housing. I've been doing a lot of informal conversations. My wife will attest to this. And I will just walk up to people and say, what about housing? And we'll start that conversation. I say, what does housing, when I say housing, what picture comes to your mind? Describe a house. And most people will describe something similar to that upper right-hand corner. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, rambler, ranch-style house, maybe on a quarter-acre lot. Because we're in rural America, right? We like our yards. Or if maybe you're a little more secure in your life, maybe you've achieved certain things, you've gotten your degree, you've got a good paying job, maybe you're in that little bit bigger house in the bottom corner. So when we talk about housing, we're like, well, we can't afford to build that for people. Just to build it for people, that's too big. And my argument is, well, it's because that's not the house we need. That's not the house we need. We need that house, the big one on your left. Simple, open floor plan, maybe 1,000 square feet, cottage, whatever kind of descriptor you want to use for it. Because as I also talked to this growing demographic, these are the people that currently occupy the rambler in the upper right-hand corner. I've been living here my whole life. I don't see myself ever wanting to go anywhere. This house, it's too big for just me, or just me and my husband, my wife. But I have nowhere to go. Where can I go? We've created a log jam in our housing stock. We have homes, we just have the wrong population living in them. Several people that I talked to, they're like, I don't want an apartment. I don't want to live in a high rise. I still want my little garden out front. I want my flowers. I want my hydrangeas. I want my rhubarb. I knew that would get you. They don't want the big yard, but they want a sense of space. They want a sense of place and ownership. So one of the key takeaways that I want from this talk is that you should really be focused on the kind of house that we need here in this community to free the backlog and the log jam of housing. Because we always talk about housing. We need workforce housing. We have workforce housing. We just don't have the right people in workforce housing. We need to give permission to people currently living in this house to move to something that's more suitable for their needs so that that young family with 2 small children can live in that Rambler that already exists. Some other issues related to housing that small communities in rural America face is our communities are older, the infrastructure's older. The mayor spoke about some of the major changes and upgrades that we're doing right now. High-rise and dense housing structures put a very big stress on civic infrastructure, and especially old civic infrastructure. And then, as I already alluded to in the past, the people who are looking to be in that smaller space aren't looking to be a part of a high-rise. They still want that little patch of grass. They still want their rhubarb. The other thing is small towns are landlocked. We're in an agricultural nirvana here. Every small town is surrounded by a farm. And so farmers are pretty unwilling to give up farmable land. But I'd argue that we don't need a lot. We don't need huge swaths of land to do this. And then finally, our existing stock is very old. This is a quick, well, maybe it's not a quick graph. There we go. This is a quick graph showing the age of the housing stock here in Cavalier. Half of it is over 70 years old. Almost 90% is 30 years old. Now, 30 years old isn't too old for a house, because if you think about that, that's one generation of a family coming through. But at 50 years, a home is definitely going to start showing its age. And at 70 years, you're definitely going to be looking at, is this home worth remodeling, or should we just replace it? I'm not going to linger on it too far, but just to show you that our housing stock hasn't been refreshed. So even though we're short of housing, the housing that we do have is also going to be lacking in very short order. Again, in all these talks that I've been in the last few years, they're like, James, we just need to get a developer, contractor to come in. We'll take care of everything. I'm going to burst your bubble right now. No, they're not. The housing industry is a commodity. It's a commodity of mass production. There is not one investor, there is not one contractor, there is not one developer in this state or in the surrounding 4 states who want to come to Cavalier, North Dakota, or any town nearby to build 10 homes. They want a return on investment that is in 9 months or 18 months, not 30 years. They want to build 100 to 500 homes in one big flat swath where the infrastructure is brand new and already put in, because they want to build a home in a week. And they want their profit the week after. So, and we don't want this anyway. We love the fact that we're in a small town where homes are unique and spaces are personal. So we keep having this discussion. It's like, let's stop talking about that. They're not coming. It's just the reality. It's not a sad reality, it's just a reality. What other problems are we facing, or what other obstacles? Well, some of the options we can look at is the naturally occurring market. If you're a free market person, and I understand that, I'm a capitalist, I've run several businesses, I've owned several businesses, the market will take care of itself, right? Not in rural America, not in housing. Because again, investors, developers, contractors, they want rapid and quick return. And so the natural market forces that would help you in certain markets won't help us here. We have this great project going on right now in Cavalier. It's an 8-plex, and it's a subsidized form of housing where they're working with the federal government to buy down the front end of the cost of construction. And I applaud the efforts of those behind that. It doesn't necessarily buy down the backside. It does take a 15-year commitment plus to see a return on investment. So there is that. These are people committed to the long-term health and welfare and thriving of our community. But it doesn't address the sheer amount of housing at a level, a rent level, needed for the current fastest growing population. Now that I've just been a bearer of such wonderful news, you're like, James, help me out, brother. What are you trying to do? Didn't we just have that wonderful cheer at the beginning? I thought you were going to give us an upbeat message. Well, I am, because there is a solution. We are the solution. Who is more vested in the community of Cavalier than those who live here? I love Rosie the Riveter because she represents to me all that community leaders in small towns have. We can do it. Habitat for Humanity was formed with the thought that volunteers can come together, we can build small, efficient homes for those who need it the most at a price point that can be accomplished if the home and its materials are brought in and built for free. That basically, that when that house is done, there's no note on it. This is a house that is ready to go and rents can be applied. It's an immediate return on investment and an endless return on investment. That's where that endless part comes. Once you build these homes, generation after generation can be in them. Once you start collecting the rents on these homes, they can build more homes. And you can identify other notch groups who are in need of this. And you're like, well, James, I can't build a house. I'm not asking you to build a house. I'm asking you to help me build a house. Know how to paint? Grab a brush. Can you run a screwdriver? You can help with the wiring. You got a strong back? Are you young? I've got plenty of lumber to move, right? We all have gifts. We all have talents, and a house is incredibly complex. And so every one of us in here has a role to play in building one of those houses. So when I say, who's going to do it? We can do it, right? Let's try that again. Who's going to do it? We can do it. Why do we do it? Why not? Why do we do it? Why not? Kyle says that all the time. Why should we do this? His answer, why not? Because why not us? Why not here? Why not now? We are the most invested in this community. Nobody out there, no magical titled person out there has as much to gain from us building these houses for the people that need it the most than us. Volunteerism. If you've ever run a volunteer event, you know how hard it is. Every year, fewer volunteers, more vendors paid, less money raised. This does not happen unless you all agree that you have a skill that you can offer me to build these houses. You have resources. If we're such an aged group, we should be pretty smart. We should have a pretty good network. I'm thinking Frank's got a network a mile long. We know people. We have resources. We have, I'm going to use an old term, we have Rolodexes full of access to people with expertise that we can call on. That if I called, won't answer the phone. But if you call, they'll say, I'll be right there. Frank, I'm going to be right there. I'm going to come. I'm going to help you shingle that roof. I hate shingling. It's volunteerism. It only works if we agree that we can do it. Again, what is a community? A community is a group of people who agree to grow together. That fabric, that interweaving of young and old, ages and stages is so important. We all have a part to play, and we all have a role to play in growing together. Thank you.